In this movie, we will take a closer look at the message box buttons that you have to choose from when displaying a message box to the user. Using our sample program, I have 6 different versions of the same message box, the only difference being the buttons being displayed. We have the options of using the OK button, the OK and cancel buttons, the yes and the no buttons, the yes, no, and cancel buttons, the retry and cancel buttons, and the abort, retry, and ignore buttons. As you can see, to cause these various combination of buttons to appear, you simply include it as a sub-property of the message box buttons argument. This list is provided to you when you type in message box buttons dot, and then the IntelliSense will provide you the list. So you don't necessarily have to remember each one of these, but just recognize that these are all options. Let's take a quick look at how these would look to the user if they were being used in a program. Clicking the show message box, you see the first message is our sample message with simply the OK button. I'll proceed to the next example, which then displays the OK and cancel buttons. Of course, keep in mind, to make these buttons functional, you would need additional code. This will be discussed soon. At this point, I'll simply click cancel to allow the sample to continue. Here we have the same message being displayed along with the yes and the no buttons. Here is the sample message with the 3 options of yes, no, and cancel. And then the retry and cancel buttons. And the final example is the same message with the 3 options presented to the user as abort, retry, and ignore. Now, in a separate movie, we will take a closer look at making these functional, but let me provide a quick demonstration of how that could happen. I'll enter some code. Here I've added some code which will present to the user a message box with the options of choosing abort, retry, and ignore. Below this, I have an if statement. If statements will be discussed in much more detail in a separate movie. But this if statement is evaluating the result of their response, and if they have chosen abort, I'm sending another message box to them to ask them, are they sure they wish to abort, since this is a fairly serious operation. I'm giving them the option of choosing OK or cancel, and I'm choosing to use the warning icon. I have commented out the remaining code simply so we can focus on this new code. You'll notice also there is a variable called button dialog result. Once again, this will be explained later. So let's just run this program. And by clicking the show message box, it's going directly to the sample message with my choices abort, retry, and ignore. Now, if I choose retry or ignore, nothing will happen since I've not written code for that. But if I choose abort, here is my second message box, and you'll see that it has a confirm abort. This is what I placed in the message box itself. The icon has changed and is asking me, am I sure I wish to abort? Again, I would need to add additional code to make the OK buttons and cancel buttons more functional. But for the time being, I'll simply let it proceed. Keep in mind, message boxes can be made to make your programs much more user-friendly and helpful, and will become a very valuable tool when we start to talk about input validation and other exception handling techniques.